Okay, we've been talking about what it means to be all in the last couple weeks. And in this season of our life as a church, it does feel a bit what Jesus is coming back to for us. Just, hey, I'm all in for you as a Savior. I'm all in as a leader. We read about it this morning, right? By grace, we've been saved, and he's the one, like it's through Jesus we experience life. We experience this fullness of life. We experience both this opportunity to experience heaven with him now and then live forever with him in eternity. Like it's out of his goodness and his motivation. And his like very fair question back is, would you trust in my love and my all in enough for you to be all in with me? I mean, could we have a reciprocal relationship here? And could it truly be a relationship? And so part of what we're asking in these days is, okay, what does it look like to be all in? What does that look like? Can we review that? Can we maybe embrace some of it for the first time? And in a time of church transition, it's really helpful to go back and say, wait a minute, let's grab a hold of what we're really after, who Jesus really is, and what he's really invited us into. Now, in order to see it today, I want to invite you to turn in your Bible or flip on a device, whatever you're going to do. Acts chapter 2. Acts chapter 2, verse 41 is where we're going to be today. We're going to have an opening line there in a second. Just while you're turning there, let me just drop an idea in your head. We'll come back to it later, but let me just drop this idea into your mind here for a minute. Have you ever had something that you really wanted? You really wanted. But then when you got it, it wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be. It wasn't exactly what you thought it was going to be. One of the things that I've heard this story with a little bit, and we've chuckled together. My mom is really good at seeing it, like how to design and lay out interiors of homes and things like that. Mom's always had a knack for that, and she likes it. She has lots of fun doing it or whatever else. And we chuckle sometimes how every decade or whatever, and Mom buys new furniture, how excited she is about it until it gets in the room. You ever had that? You're like, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. And then you get it in, and the lighting is like one tick different. And it just all of a sudden feels to you like, man, I'm going to love that. Well, I mean, it's okay. The furniture, it was okay, And furniture is a big deal, right? And hopefully you can return it if it doesn't work perfectly or whatever else. And sometimes you can't even pull that off, right? I mean, it's like, okay. Sometimes it's something like really small. It's like a meal. You go to a restaurant, and you're like, somebody's like, you got to go there. And somebody might even say, well, you got to get that. And you're like, oh, excited. You're like, man, this is something I'd like. And you get it, and you're like, it's kind of average. It's okay. That's fair, yeah. I mean, then there's other times it's big too. Like it can be like a job. You're so excited for this job. You're so excited for this new day, new terrain. This is going to be incredible. Well, these people are terrible. I don't really like any of them. I don't think they like me, right? It's just in a moment, it can just all somehow seemingly crumble. You're in school and you've heard great things about a teacher or professor, and you finally get them. And for whatever reason, that teacher, professor seems to be having the worst decade of their life. And you're on the receiving end of that. It's just not all it was cracked up to be. There are things that we want, and then sometimes when we experience them, they're not exactly what we thought and what honestly we had hoped they would be, and we don't necessarily want to give them up. We don't even necessarily want to return them, but we live with this slightly fractured relationship with them. Okay, you just hold that thought. Okay, you just tuck that away. We'll come back to that later. Just tuck it away. Let's talk about the book of Acts. Acts is a really cool place to be in the scriptures. It's so full of action and God doing incredible things and people being healed and people responding to Jesus. And Acts chapter 2 is what a lot of people will refer to, and they say, hey, what should the church in our day be like? This is what a lot of people will refer to, and it's great. It is this perfect place to begin, which is oh, yeah, that makes complete sense. This is how it should be. Acts chapter 2. We'll start in verse 41. There's this guy named Peter who's been preaching. It's post-Jesus resurrection and post his ascension, and he's sharing the gospel. He said, those who accepted his message, Peter's message about Jesus, were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their number that day. How cool is that? 3,000 people in a moment receive Jesus, like their life is redirected, broken things are healed and restored, eternities are changed, relationships have an opportunity to be reconciled. Are you kidding me? How great is that? How great is that? I'm just telling you, I can't make it any better today. If you need a different room, I can help you with that, but I can't make it any better than that, okay? Verse 42, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. Like, here's the apostles. They're teaching eyewitness accounts of the life of Jesus. How good's that? Imagine their passion when they lean in and they talk about what they saw Jesus do, and they talk about what they heard, and they talk about 3,000 people, and they talk about what's been healed and redirected in them, and like people are devoted. They're devoted to what Jesus said and taught and how he taught them to live. They're devoted to fellowship and to being together and the breaking of bread. They're devoted to prayer. What better to be devoted to? And they've got this early understanding of, man, we get to talk to the living God. We get to have a conversation with the living creator God of all things. We get to have a living conversation with the Jesus who was dead, and some of these people actually watched him die on a cross. Oh, but now he's resurrected. Oh, I mean, they're engaging this. Verse 43, everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostle. Can you imagine how cool is it that they are living a life that is marked by awe? This is super challenging to me. Occasionally I read verses like this and I have to ask, would anybody say my life is marked by awe? Would anybody say, man, you would love being around John. That guy's got a lot of awe. He's full of awe and wonder. He's full of that. Well, somehow it registers to these people. Man, have you seen those early Christians? Like those people have a lot of awe. I think that's so cool. What a compelling way to live, right? Verse 44, all the believers were together. All the believers were together, and they had everything in common. Now, you know that's not like literally every opinion and everything else, right? But they've kind of devoted their life to the same direction, right? They've got this same priority, and they've got this same love of Jesus. Verse 45, they sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. It's okay to just acknowledge that anyone was a big number. Anyone was a big number. It wasn't like 2 or 3 people. Anyone, man, they're living this thing out. Every day they continue to meet together in the temple courts. That's kind of like the go to church thing for us, right? They broke bread, they had meals, they took communion in their homes, and they ate together with glad and really sincere hearts, praising God. And they have this time where they enjoy the favor of all the people. Now, just as a side note, that's not lasting. It gives way to persecution pretty quickly. It gives way to a lot of them being killed and scattered, right? And then check this out at the bookend of this thing. And the Lord added to their number daily. Every single day, people were meeting Jesus in such a compelling way that they were surrendering their lives to him. Every day. Could you imagine if every day among us, somebody was telling a story about somebody else who was meeting Jesus in such a compelling way from a person who was full of awe? It was so compelling that they just couldn't say no to Jesus. They're like, give me some of that. I mean, are you kidding me? There's a reason, like, people point here all the time. I want to live that. I want us to live that. I want us to experience that. Well, why? I mean, it sounds good. Why wouldn't we, right? Let's walk it out a little more, a little more slowly this time. Let's go back. Verse 41. Those who accepted his message were baptized. Here it is, mind-blowing. About 3,000 were added to their number that day. Just as a point of context, the number of Jesus' followers before this moment was 120. It went from 120 to 3,120 in one message, one moment, one God encounter. How good is that? Would you not love that? I'm not sure you would. I'm not sure he would. I'm not sure. Can we just be honest? I'm not sure you'd love that. I'm not sure we'd love that. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what happens when 3,000? Do you know what happens when 3,000 people in one day respond to the gospel in a community and in the context of a church? Do you know what happens? You lose what you think you had as a church. You lose your favorite seat. There's 3,000 people who don't know that's your favorite seat. You lose this ability to say, I like my church because it's small. I'm not sure we like it. I'm honestly not sure we like it. I think we have an idea that we like it. But can we be honest with each other? I'm not sure we like it. Can we just have a very heart-to-heart conversation? Can we just have a very heart-to-heart conversation? I think some of us should deeply ask the question, if 3,000 people in my context responded to the gospel in one day, how quickly would I bail out? How quickly would I bail? Because it wasn't comfortable for me anymore. I couldn't manage it. I couldn't see it. I didn't feel like everybody knew me anymore. Right? I mean, how many? Okay, we're going to go somewhere here, okay? I'm going to trust that you'll still love me when we're done. I only got 8 Sundays left anyway, but okay. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, okay? But here, listen. I wonder if that one line points to a little bit of a flawed reason that we often in our culture choose a church to engage. Because if 3,000 people responded to the gospel in one day, you would lose all your preferences, and so would I. All of them. All of them. All of them. And yet, in this Acts 2 gig, there's something thrilling going on. These people are pumped. These people, it's just worth the question, right? Let's keep going. They devoted themselves. They devoted themselves to the apostle teaching and fellowship and breaking of the bread and to prayer. I mean, that sounds good, right? I mean, they devoted themselves to that thing. Who wouldn't want to do that? I want to be about the word. I want to be about the scriptures. I want us to pray. I mean, do we really? Do we really? If we're devoted to the apostles' teaching, do you know what's implied in that? Is that we're devoted to the apostles' teaching. Not parts, not sections, not ones we like. We're not devoted to rewriting them. We're devoted to living them. We're not devoted to paraphrasing them so that we can be a little more comfortable. We're devoted to living them. We're devoted to the apostles' teaching because they're about Jesus, who is a Savior. We're not devoted. We're devoted to the apostles' teaching. We're devoted to the apostles' teaching about marriage. We're devoted to the apostles' teaching about integrity and about being people of our word. We're devoted to the apostles' teaching about forgiveness. We're devoted to the apostles' teaching about sexuality. We're devoted to the apostles' teaching about money. We're devoted, we are devoted. Are we? Are we? I'm not saying we're not. I'm saying, are we? It's an easy paragraph or two to love. I don't know that it's an easy paragraph to live. It's an easy paragraph to elevate. I want that, I want that, I want that, I want. But do we? Fully, do we want that? Are we looking for that? Are we zeroed in on that? Are we devoted? Do we want to be devoted? How are we viewing that? let's keep going. I know some of you are like, hurry, John. This is awful. Hurry, okay? Here's the one, right? Verse 43, we talked about this. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. And maybe the question on this one isn't, are we filled with awe and wonder at what the Lord does through people, what Jesus does through his power through people? Maybe the question more accurately is, do we want to be? Because part of what is painted in this little passage here, the signs and wonders of the apostle, would mean we would see things, we would experience things, and some of you do experience this, and this is amazing, right? But you would see and experience things that your brain can't fully comprehend, that you can't naturally explain, that the end of your human reason runs out somewhere when you're trying to explain it. And the only thing you have left is not a natural explanation, but a supernatural explanation. Are we okay with that? Do we want that? Would we even yearn for that? Would we be surrendered enough to give up enough control that Jesus actually could work through us like that? Let me ask it to you. Let me ask it to you this way. How would you feel if your life was marked by signs and wonders? How would you feel if your life was this vehicle of God's signs and wonders coming to the earth? Would we? Do we? Maybe you do. Maybe we do. I don't know. I think we just got to ask the question, right? So, what are we really after there? Verse 44. All the believers were together and had everything in common. All the believers were together. Whew. All of them? Everybody, Jesus? How about some? How about some? And had all things in common. Let me just give you a hint of how all things are in common. They're built on something common, and it's not preference and it's not political persuasion. It's not preference, it's not human preference, and it's not political persuasion. In fact, some people in this group, some of even Jesus' initial 12 disciples had very different and very opposed, intensely opposed political persuasions. Jesus traveled around with 12 guys, a couple of them whom would have wanted to kill some of the other 12 for their political persuasion. And yet now we're talking about people who had all things in common. The easiest way to get duped in our current culture is to say, well, kind of like, I like that, I like this sound of this church, but in Acts, but I've gravitated toward a church where I think most people share my preference and my political persuasion. Verse 45, they sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. I mean, I don't have to talk about this one, but let's do it anyway, just for fun. They sold property and possessions to give to anybody who had need. Man, the New Testament church is cool, man. Look at those people in the book of Acts, man. Look at Yup. Look at those open bank accounts. Yeah. I sat around a table one time, several years ago, with a group of Christian leaders. And I posed this question. It's kind of my role to push the group a little bit. And so I posed this question. I said, how many of you, if somebody in your family had a terminal illness, how many of you would empty bank accounts, take out second mortgages on homes, do whatever it took financially to get them whatever they needed? How many of you would do it? How many of you would do it? Now, you know the answer. They all said yes. Every one of them said yes. And their family wasn't even in the room. They could have lied. Okay? But they all said yes, because we would all do it. Right? We would all do it. I changed the question. I said, how many of you would do the same thing? How many of you would empty your bank accounts, take out a second mortgage on your home, do it? If you felt God prompt you to give it to meet a need that was beyond your family? 7 Christian leaders around the table. I'm just going to tell you, every single one of them said no. Every single one of them. And they all had a reason. Well, because God wants me to be a good steward, and God wants me to have in case my family does have a need, and God wants, like, I'm responsible for these people. I don't know. Am I responsible for my family? I am. Yep. But let's be clear. I am responsible to Jesus first. I'm responsible to Jesus first. So are you. So are we. And so I think, like, let's just ask, would we really want to experience the movement of Jesus through his church in a way that we somehow got to a point of being comfortable with giving whatever it took to meet every need? You don't have to answer it out loud. I get it. And I'm not even saying you should go home and empty your bank account. I'm just saying I think we should ask the question. This is what the earliest followers of Jesus, the most impacted by his death and his resurrection, like by proximity, this is what they're doing. This is what's normal. This is what's normal. We say we kind of want that, but I just wonder. Verse 46, every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and they ate together with glad and sincere hearts. This might be the tougher one for me out of all of these, honestly. Every day they met together. I don't know if I love anybody enough for every day. I mean, seriously, I'm not sure. Every day? Look, I love y'all, but every day, I don't know. Sometimes I need a break from my own family, and I really love them. I mean, every day? Every day? And look, it's not even a trick word. Every day in the original Greek was every day. 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Hey, let's go to church. Hey, let's go to each other's house. Hey, next day, hey, let's go to church. Hey, let's go to each other's house. Did they all still have? Yes, they all had jobs. In fact, most of them would have had jobs that would have been sun up to sundown. We're not even talking about like remote work for 3 hours. I mean, we're talking about this is long haul stuff, right? Every day they met together in the temple courts, and then they went to each other's house, and they're like, wait. Oh, dear God, first century introverts must have been suffering. I mean, can you feel it, right? Every day, let's go to church. And now some of you are like, that's super cool. Now, here's how I know we struggle. With that. Like, this one's easy. It's easy. Culturally, the most devoted and faithful followers of Jesus. Now, some of you break the scale, I get it. But on average, go to church less than twice a month now. I know lots of people who talk to me all the time about prayer, but they don't want to come to one Tuesday night a month. I can't. I got this, I got that. And all the things we got I understand, they're all good. They're all great. There's no condemnation in the thing we've got. There just becomes a push point somewhere where, like, do I really want what I said I want? Do I really want what Jesus offered? Do I really want what Jesus described? Do I really want what's held out as this ideal? Do I really want? Every day? Right? They broke bread in their own homes. They ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And then here it is again. Check this one out. This is like going back to the beginning. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Let's just pose the question one more time. Are we okay if we were a church where every single day a new person was responding to the gospel? I desperately want the answer to that to be yes. I think we candidly on occasion need to ask if it is. How do we really feel about that? How deep is our longing actually for that? Let me just break down for us what's happening right there. In those few verses, there are 5 things that are just playing themselves out. First, in the first verse you saw, they're reaching people. Like somehow those 3,000 people get there. Somehow, it just keeps happening, right? They're reaching people. They're experiencing community. Every day they're together. They're eating meals together. They're around together. They're meeting each other's needs. So there's generosity. They're giving things away to each other, right? They're just doing this, which means there's some sacrifice. I don't think everybody's, given a 20 out of their abundance of 20s. They're leaving all things in common. They're giving away all things. They're meeting all the needs. There's a collective sacrifice to it. There's a right. And then they go back to it. And this is so important because this highlights the heart of Jesus so much. And then it ends with, again, reaching people. Here's Luke who wrote this. Luke is one of the early followers of Jesus. He also wrote this gospel account of Luke. He's a doctor, he's a thinker, he's processed. And it's not by accident that this little section starts with 3,000 people responding to Jesus and ends with everyday people responding to Jesus. Every single day. People responding to Jesus. Why would that be the case? Well, here's the thing. Luke, among other people, knows that Jesus came so that people could have more life. They could have it abundantly. In part, for that life to start with Jesus, Luke knows well the words that he wrote in Luke 19:10, that Jesus came, Jesus went heaven to earth to seek and save, to seek out, to find, and to rescue, bring to himself those who are lost. And lost is not a word of condemnation. Lost is a word of invitation. Lost isn't Jesus condemning the world. We actually know from the scriptures that's not what he came to do. He came to rescue it. Lost is Jesus simply saying, there are people who are living without me, and that grieves me. And I came to find them. And I came to reveal myself to them. Luke knows it. So Luke bookends this thing with this matters. This matters. And if we have natural community, and we have awe, and we have generosity, and we have sacrifice, the natural result is going to be that this wheel just keeps spinning. It just keeps spinning. Now, you say, look, how can we, what does this actually mean, John? Okay, that's great, and you've kicked the tar out of me for no good reason, John. I had a good week, okay? I understand. It's okay. We just occasionally need to say, look, if Jesus has invited us into this, and he went all in to create it, are we willing to go all in with him? Are we willing to go all in with him? What happens in this, I was talking to a guy recently who has been following Jesus about 5 years now. Been following Jesus about 5 years. And he just in telling a little bit of his story, he just talked about things in his life that have changed, have been literally transformed in the last 5 years. Priorities, relationships, the navigation of relationships, healing in relationships, his view and his relationship with money and the need of it and the craving of it, right? Ways he would spend his time, some addictions and vices, 5 years of ongoing transformation. Because there was a day about 5 years ago where he was one who surrendered his life to Jesus and did engage in some community with people who are living surrendered lives to Jesus, who sacrificed for him and then with him, who modeled generosity and the invitation to generosity. It's okay, this matters. That 5-year story that begins even before a surrender to Jesus, but includes a surrender to Jesus, that is what Jesus is trying to do. That is what Jesus is inviting us into. And sometimes if we're really candid with one another, and more importantly with ourselves, the church feels a little bit like the furniture we bought that we thought was one thing, and when we got in and it was every day? You mean more people? Kind of it's small. All of a sudden we're I kind of like part of it. As long as I can pick the pillows and the cushions, I'm good. But don't anybody else sit on it and don't fill this, it gets a little dicey in our soul. It's a little dicey. And yet this is the thing, that Jesus said, look, I want you to be a part of this. This is what I'm inviting you into. It's why for Journey, like part of what drives us and part of the engine that keeps us moving in this is this desire to just say, look, let's do whatever it takes to multiply disciples, to introduce more people to the person of Jesus and help them be transformed by Jesus. Let's all continue to be disciples who are people continually transformed by Jesus. No arrival points, no stopping points, no like, I finally made it. Nope, we walk with Jesus, and out of the goodness of his heart for us, there's always more to experience with him. There's always more he's developing and growing in us. There's always more that he's inviting us to let him chisel out so we live a little more free and a little more whole. How is it we multiply disciples and grow as disciples, right? How is it then that we get to multiply leaders, which is what Jesus was doing with his early disciples? Jesus was not simply educating a group of 12 men to make them religious towers of knowledge. He was transforming men, young men, so they could go multiply disciples. Jesus didn't say the 12, now listen, I'm going back to heaven. You guys get yourself in a really good small group. Now they were, and they did, and they met together, and they prayed, and they met together every single day. But it's almost like Jesus didn't have to say that. What did Jesus have to say? Go. Go multiply, go. Go multiply disciples. Go teach them to obey all the things I've invited them to do. Go. Right? And then, if we can multiply these disciples and then multiply these leaders like Jesus did, then we get to do what these people ended up doing in the chapters ahead. We get to multiply locations. Like these people started churches all over the known world at the time, right? They get scattered out and they get driven out by persecution, but they know when they're driven out by persecution, they have this mission. They have a mission. What's the mission? Go make disciples. Go introduce people to Jesus and then help them experience his ongoing transformation. They have a mission. It's the first thing they had in common was a mission. Let me just say this. Look, there has always been a mission of God. There has not always been a church. There's always been a mission. There was a mission when God created Adam and Eve. There was a mission when Adam and Eve sinned. The mission is to reconcile people to him and help them walk with him. That is the mission. That is the mission. There was not a church in the garden, friends. There has always been a mission. The church was created for the mission. The church was created to partner with Jesus, to be a vehicle of Jesus, to help us experience we together can go and be multiplying disciples that would then multiply leaders. And just like these people would actually watch out of us develop these locations and expressions of what the church might look like, but it always has the mission. It always has the mission. Always has the mission. Mission first, church second. Mission first, church second. Mission first, church second. Let me just give you one insight on how to become very disgruntled with the church, okay? Or very apathetic in your relationship with Jesus. It's to view the church and relate to the church as if that mission is anything other than go make disciples. Go seek and save the lost and make disciples. If you want a way to, over time, become apathetic or a little bored or a little hurt or disillusioned, look at the church, view the church, try and have a relationship with the church that is about anything else first. You're like, wait, John, what about me? And I'm a sheep and I've been following. I know. If you're a follower of Jesus, you're a disciple. I'm a disciple. And part of how we keep being disciples is go make disciples. Okay? Like that's the thing he's in it too. Like the church isn't something like that we like try and consume. The church is something we are. Like the church is a body of people like for the mission. Don't consume the church, be the church. Don't consume like the church. Don't think, well, what can the church like just feed me and give me? Is that part of the equation? Of course it is. But it's part of the equation as long as it fuels the mission. The mission. Now, here's what I want to invite us into. In just a second, I want to invite us into one thing in which we can just recalibrate potentially. And this will not be for all of us today. All of us will not be ready for this today. But here's the gig. On June 1st, 1996, 100 years ago, I stood at the front of a church. And I stood there and I waited. And I waited. And what I was waiting for was for Erica to walk down that aisle so I could marry her. I stood there like, then she comes, right? And it's great, and it's this great moment. And in that ceremony, her and I said the words that you've all been in a room, you've heard them, right? I do. I do. I do. And I was a little uncertain, but she said them back. We were good, okay? Like we made it. I do, right? I do. And in that moment, what do we say? We're publicly making our commitment. We're publicly saying, this is what I'm doing, right? Do you know how many times in the last almost 30 years that in one way or another we have recommitted to that commitment? More than we could ever count. Every time you say, I'm sorry, it's a little bit of an I do. Every time you say, I forgive you, it's a little bit of an I do. Every time you say, well, that was on me, I do. Every time you cast a new vision together and you chase something together, that's another little bit of an I do. You just keep committing. You just keep committing to the things you value most. I want to ask you today, would you value the mission of Jesus most? Would you value the mission of Jesus most? He went all in for us and in part now includes us in this great and incredible unfolding story of going to seek and save the lost, of making disciples, of multiplying them so we can multiply leaders, so we can multiply locations, because that's what he invited the church to do and to be. Now, for those of you in Middleville, I want to hand this back to your location so you can tangibly, in that room, in this moment, decide, like, would I commit? Would I, as a part of a we, commit to that mission? So I want to hand this back to you at your location to walk that out together. Now, for those of you online and those of us in the room, let's make a decision. Let's make a decision. And here's the thing. It's not fancy. It's not a fancy decision. It's not dramatic. I'm not going to try and make you cry. I'm not very good at that anyway. I just want to ask you. When you consider your relationship to what Jesus has built as his church, do you really want to be a part of what he enlisted the church to do? Do you want to be a part of the incredible opportunity he's invited us into? Why he chose us for this, but I don't know, but it's humbling and amazing. Do you want to be a part of that? Do you want to say, look, I'm going to make a conscious decision to say more than anything else, I will rally together with a common mission to serve Jesus who rescued me and who has rescued us. Would you? I will learn to be a person who does not consume the church, but I am the church. I will learn to be a person who is a group of people, part of a group of people, would be thrilled to lose some of my preferences if that's what it meant to watch people every day encounter the grace of Jesus Christ. I would give the others up. I would give my preferences up. I will, because Jesus has gone all in with me, invited me to this. I will be a person. Yeah, I'll sacrifice for his mission, his story, his heart. I'm going to tell you the simplest way. The simplest way starts with a very simple prayer. Jesus, would you help me see what you see and love how you love? Would you help me see what you see and love how you love? Would you help me see what you see and love how you love? Because we'll be his church if we do that. We'll be his church. It's not overly complicated. We'll be his church. It'll be all sorts of messy and everything because we're all human, right? But it will be his church.